For over a year, I'd supplied my co-workers with gourmet lunchboxes from my father's high-end restaurant, the Miramar. Each box came with 2 proteins and 2 sides and normally sold for $18. I charged them $10. Everyone loved the arrangement until Garrett, our new intern, arrived and treated it like a criminal enterprise. $10 for a 2 and 2 combo, he announced to the open office. Are you kidding me? I can get this made for $5. Tyler's pocketing $5 a box and selling 100 boxes a day. That's $500, $180,000 a year. He's buying a new car off our backs. This is insane. Chelsea frowned. Actually, Garrett, it's a great deal. Anything decent outside costs at least $18. Tyler's practically charging us cost. And the Miramar is a massive chain. Another coworker added. They even set up a private lunch line just for this office. It isn't open to the public. Garrett scoffed. Cost is $10. Pork is dirt cheap right now. Even if you filled the box, it wouldn't cost that much. My uncle owns a restaurant. I know exactly how this industry works. Folded his arms and looked around the room. If you trust me, I can get you the exact same setup. 2 proteins, 2 sides for $5. Pure cost. I won't take a penny. I just can't stand watching someone treat his coworkers like cash cows. Hands began rising around the office for the first time in a year. I felt completely relieved. This thankless chore had cost my family nearly $100,000 annually. Now it was finally someone else's problem. That day's lunch had just arrived. The signature box contained 5 thick pieces of slow braised short rib and a whole herb roasted chicken quarter. Sides were organic tomato paste, pasta and sesame, marinated chicken salad accompanied by house pickled relish, and a bottle of fresh pressed seasonal fruit juice. The Miramar's culinary team prepared everything specifically for our office. For a year, the quality had never slipped. The box retailed for $18, but I charged my coworkers only $10. Tyler, these short ribs are unbelievable. Your chef Michelin starred. The chicken is huge. I can barely finish it. The tomato is so fresh and the dressing is perfect. I live for this juice. You can actually taste the fruit pulp. Those were the compliments I heard every day. But Garrett ruined the mood with a laugh. What? You pay $10 for this? You're getting ripped off. The actual cost is $5. Max pointed at me as if he were exposing a corrupt businessman. Tyler, we're coworkers. Taking advantage of us. Like this is dirty. My fork stopped above my bowl of plain pasta. $5. The organic tomatoes and chicken alone cost more than that. Was Garrett planning to serve them synthetic meat? Chelsea immediately pushed back. A lunch like this would cost $18 to $20 anywhere else, and the quality wouldn't come close. I can't even finish mine. The Miramar is a top-tier national chain. Another coworker said. It's clean and reliable. We know we're eating high-quality food. Garrett smirked. Reliable? Those ribs are clearly cheap. Frozen imports. Probably sitting in a commercial freezer for 6 months. That's how people get food poisoning. He pointed at the chicken next. And those are factory-farmed birds pumped full of hormones. Eat enough of that and your endocrine system is ruined. Restaurants have insane margins because they use garbage. Then he lowered his voice. I'm not trying to stir up trouble, but if the food is so great, why doesn't Tyler eat it? Kitchen makes him a completely separate meal. Isn't that suspicious? The room went silent. People stopped chewing. The luxurious lunchboxes suddenly looked like containers of toxic waste. Courtney gagged and shoved her plate away. Tyler, you want to explain this? We understand that you want to make money, but you shouldn't feed us dangerous low-grade food just to line your pockets. Murmurs spread across the office. If you wanted to profit, you should have just said so. Charge us $15 or $18. Don't claim it's had costs while feeding us food that could make us sick. Is your conscience really okay with this? I stared at them. What profit? My family's brand had been built over decades on a strict never-frozen policy. We didn't use ordinary commercial meat. The short ribs were locally sourced, organic beef. The chicken was free-range and organic certified. The $10 I charged didn't cover the ingredients. Labor, utilities, packaging, and delivery were absorbed by my father's flagship kitchen. It run the numbers the month before. We were losing nearly $100,000 a year on this favor about the price of a brand new luxury car, just so my Coworkers could eat well. Garrett covered his mouth, pretending to regret his outburst. Oh man, my bad. I shouldn't have said anything. I didn't mean to ruin your side hustle, he said. It's just that I grew up in this business. I used to handle the books for my uncle's diner. A lunchbox like this costs $5 to make. Max, if you want to save some money, I can talk to him. He'll do it for $5 completely. It cost. Courtney's eyes lit up. Seriously? $5 for 2 meats and 2 sides? Of course, we're a team. Why would I lie to you? Think of all the money you'll have left for coffee and drinks. Excitement swept through the office. Count me and put me down for the whole month. They crowded around Garrett's desk to sign up. Courtney passed my cubicle and gave me a smug, tight-lipped smile. Tyler, you see how it is. No one wants to pay your bloated prices anymore. You should refund everyone's remaining balance. Without arguing, I opened Venmo and transferred every dollar of their unused lunch balances back to them. Then I called my father. Dad, shut down the office lunch service. Don't need to deliver here anymore. A huge sigh of relief came through the phone. Thank God. We can finally stop hemorrhaging money. I hung up and returned to my plain noodles. I hadn't eaten the lunch boxes because the food was bad. I undergone major gastrointestinal surgery the previous year and was still on a strict, bland diet. No oil, spice, or heavy seasoning for 12 months. My daily meals had been millet porridge and handmade wheat noodles in clear broth. The refund notifications chimed across the office. The complaints began. We got this month's refund. But what about the past year? Someone demanded that's $150 a month. We overpaid more than $18 a year. That's a luxury bag, $150 per person times 20 people. Another coworker calculated. That's $3,000 a month more than Tyler's salary. He was using our money as his allowance. No wonder he wears designer clothes and expensive watches. We paid for them. I didn't explain. No one would believe that a millionaire's son was working a mid-level logistics job for experience. They certainly wouldn't believe my family had been losing $100,000 a year feeding them. Any defense would only sound like a guilty man covering his tracks. I finished my noodles, sealed the container, tied it in a bag, and dropped it into the trash. Heavy thud cut through the murmuring. Every eye turned toward me. Disgust, disdain, and self-righteous fury filled the room. I met their stares calmly. If you truly believe I defrauded you, file a report with the Better Business Bureau. If you're concerned about the food quality, contact the Department of Health. The Miramar will cooperate with any official inspection. Then I walked out. Chelsea hurried after me. Tyler, are you okay? I'm fine. Honestly, they're jumping to conclusions. No, you weren't ripping us off. I gave her a small smile. Thanks, Chelsea. But really, I'm okay. And I was losing this burden was a dream come true. A year earlier, Courtney had tasted a bento box one of my father's chefs prepared for me. She begged me to bring her one and offered to pay. At first, it was only her, then a few others joined. Soon the entire department was ordering. Every day, I coordinated menus and recorded everyone's dietary restrictions and had severe type 2 diabetes and needed completely sugar-free meals. Janice hated cilantro. Greg was dangerously allergic to shellfish. Bobby couldn't tolerate even a hint of spice. I labeled and double-checked every order. For an entire year, not one person got sick. My father used to tease me about it. Coworkers are treated like royalty. Tyler, you've never paid this much attention to my diet. I'd poured my time, energy, and family's money into keeping those people happy. In return, they called me a criminal. When I returned to my desk, Garrett sidled over, wearing a look of practiced guilt. Hey Tyler, I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to steal your thunder. I was just trying to do right by the team. Lean closer. Everyone says you're a chill guy. You aren't mad at me, right? Mad. He had just saved my family $100,000. I almost wanted to buy him a drink. No, I said expressionlessly. I'm not mad. He grinned and threw an arm over my shoulder. I knew you were a team player. Since you already have everyone's dietary restrictions written down, can you forward me the spreadsheet? It'll save me the trouble of making a new one. Paused. Oh, and since you won't need that heated delivery van anymore, could I borrow it? It seems wasteful to let it sit around. I stared at him. The van was a specialized medical-grade food transport vehicle with built-in UV sanitation. My family had purchased it specifically for the office delivery route. This kid had just accused me of poisoning our coworkers for profit, and now he wanted to borrow the van. I pulled his arm off my shoulder. No way. His smile disappeared. Wow, Tyler. Seriously? It's just a van. You aren't even using it anymore. What's the big deal? Several coworkers immediately joined in. Honestly, Tyler, that's petty. You made so much money off us. You probably bought it with our cash. Anyway, least you can do is let Garrett use it. We're all trying to get by. Don't hold a grudge just because he found a better deal. You're hoarding it out of spite because he exposed your little racket. Their words cut sharply. A year of labor. A year of customized gourmet meals. Massive loss for my family. And this was the thanks I received. I looked at them, letting my gaze turn cold. The van belongs to the restaurant group. If you want to lease it, contact corporate. I don't have the authority to lend it out. I paused and, let me make this clear. I have never made a single cent from any of you. If you want to sue me or report me, go ahead. I welcome it. But if I hear one more slanderous word about my character, I'll involve my family's legal team. The office went quiet. Garrett flushed and muttered under his breath before retreating. 10 minutes later, my phone buzzed. Tyler, this spreadsheet is insane. Needs sugar-free. Janice can't have cilantro. Bobby needs zero spice. It's all cooked in one big pot. How am I supposed to separate all this? Are you sure you didn't make these up to make it look difficult? He was accusing me of sabotaging him, as if the kitchen hadn't spent a year preparing individual portions for every order. I replied with 3 words. Ask them yourself at 5:30. I clocked out for the first time in a year. I didn't have to stay late, verifying menu adjustments or remind the head chef about Hank's low glycemic meals. I drove home with the windows down, feeling lighter than air. I had just poured myself a glass of water when my phone rang. It was Janice, the HR manager. Tyler, I heard what happened today. Garrett's blunt. You shouldn't take it personally. He's only looking out for the team. She continued before I could answer. The thing is, we've gotten used to the Miramar's food. If you can match Garrett's $5 price, we'd be happy to keep ordering from you. We won't make an issue of whatever margins you were making before. Just have the kitchen use the same high-quality ingredients, and we'll keep supporting your family's business. I nearly laughed. He spoke as if allowing us to lose even more money were a generous favor. No, thank you, I said flatly. My family had money. If I wanted to feed them for free, we could afford it. But those ungrateful parasites didn't deserve another crumb. Janice's tone sharpened. Fine. I gave you a chance to make things right. Don't come crying to me when you regret this. I hung up, laughing for real. The hot potato had officially been passed. The next day, Garrett's delivery arrived, 30 minutes late. By then, the office was practically growling with hunger. But when everyone opened their containers, the room fell silent. The short ribs were mostly bare, grizzly bones with a few scraps of meat. The chicken drumsticks were tiny, dry, and shriveled. Chelsea tried to bite into hers, but it was so tough. She had to tear at it with her teeth before finally giving up. Vegetables were limp, yellowish mush. The rice was gray and dry with a damp cellar-like smell. Everything floated in a strange reddish oil with an unpleasant chemical sheen. Why do these ribs taste so weird? Someone asked. They're completely bland, and they smell fishy. This chicken is like leather. I can't chew it. The rice is yellow. Why does it taste bitter? Everyone looked at Garrett. He was busy stuffing a relatively decent-looking piece of meat into his mouth. Tastes fine to me, he said around the food. This is organic pasture-raised pork. It isn't that soft commercial stuff. It's leaner, which means it's packed with nutrients. He held up his chicken, and the chicken is free-range. That's why. It's firm. It's real muscle, not fat. Then he gestured toward the rice. It doesn't have that fake shine because it's completely natural and unprocessed. Commercial rice is coated in synthetic wax to make it look pretty. That stuff is toxic, honestly. Why do you think some people only eat noodles instead of rice? At my desk, I quietly enjoyed the fresh homemade wheat noodles my mother had packed for me. Chelsea glared at him. Stop taking shots at Tyler. Isn't even part of the lunch program anymore. He brought his own food because he likes noodles. It has nothing to do with the rice. Garrett smirked as if he'd won. Sure, Chelsea. Or maybe he knows he got caught. The Miramar probably threw those noodles in as part of his kickback. Otherwise, why is he still getting food from them? Courtney gave Chelsea a knowing, ugly smile. Honestly, Chelsea, you defend Tyler awfully hard. Do you have a crush on him? Seriously? Another coworker added. You're lying to defend a guy who ripped us off. Have some self-respect. Garrett's lunch is perfectly fine. It's cheaper and we aren't being scammed. Chelsea's face turned bright red with anger and embarrassment. Unable to find the words to argue, she slammed down her chopsticks and stormed out of the break room. Behind her, Garrett's smile widened. Then his phone rang. The color drained from his face as he answered, and whatever he heard on the other end made his hand begin to shake. The color didn't just leave Garrett's face, it seemed to drain from his entire body, leaving his skin a sickly, translucent gray. The hand holding his phone trembled so violently that the plastic casing clicked against his teeth when he tried to speak. You Uncle Sonny? Garrett stammered, his voice dropping an octave into a squeak. What do you mean? We already started eating. Everyone is. You idiot. The voice on the other end of the line was so loud, so raw with panic, that the silence of the break room acted like an amplifier. Even from 3 feet away, Chelsea and Courtney could hear the raspy, tobacco-stained shout of Sonny, the owner of Sonny's Eats. I told you to double-check the order sheets. Sonny roared. You said there were no special requests. You said it was just a bulk order of the standard pork and chicken. It is, Garrett whispered desperately, turning his back to the room and hunching over his desk. It's just the standard 2 and 2. Why are you calling me? Because we ran out of the canola oil, you brain-dead parasite. Sonny screamed. And the prep cook used the commercial peanut soy blend we had left over from the weekend buffet. And that's not the worst of it. The gravy for the pork was stretched with the oyster and clam extract to give it some goddamn color because the meat was so pale. You told me nobody had food allergies. Garrett's phone slipped slightly in his sweaty palm. Peanut? Oyster? But. Across the room, Greg had just finished his 3rd bite of the dry gray pork. Suddenly stopped chewing. At first, it looked like he had simply swallowed wrong. He cleared his throat, a wet, rattling sound that drew Chelsea's attention. Then he patted his chest. Within 5 seconds, Greg's face turned from its usual pale office complexion to a deep, alarming shade of plum. His fingers clawed at the collar of his starch-stiffened shirt, ripping a button clean off. Greg. Chelsea stood up, her chair scraping loudly against the linoleum. Greg, are you okay? Greg didn't answer. He couldn't. His chest rose and fell in shallow, desperate spasms. A high-pitched, whistling wheeze escaped his throat, the unmistakable sound of an airway rapidly closing. He's having an allergic reaction. Chelsea shouted, her voice echoing off the glass partitions. Does anyone have his EpiPen? Where does he keep it? The office erupted into immediate, useless chaos. Courtney shrieked and pushed her chair backward, knocking over her half-eaten container of $5 pork. The reddish, chemical-smelling oil splattered across the carpet, smelling faintly of old fish and burnt rubber. Oh my God. Is he dying? Courtney screamed, covering her mouth. Tyler, do something. Why are you just sitting there? Tyler slowly set down his chopsticks. His bowl of plain wheat noodles sat pristine and undisturbed. He looked at Greg, then at Garrett, who was still frozen by his desk, the phone still buzzing with his uncle's distant, frantic shouting. Garrett, Tyler said, his voice flat, calm, and entirely devoid of panic. Your uncle's kitchen used peanut oil and shellfish extract, didn't they? Garrett's head snapped toward Tyler. His eyes were wide, white circles of pure terror. I didn't know. I thought you made those allergies up to make the logistics look hard. You absolute moron, Chelsea hissed. She ran to Greg's desk, tearing through his top drawers. Greg, where is it? The drawer? The backpack. Greg was on his knees now, clutching the edge of the desk, his eyes bulging. He pointed a trembling, swollen finger toward the bottom drawer of his filing cabinet. Tyler didn't waste time. He crossed the room in 3 long strides, bypassed the screaming Courtney, and pulled open the bottom drawer. He bypassed the clutter of old tax forms and spare chargers, instantly spotting the yellow and black plastic casing of the emergency epinephrine auto-injector. Chelsea, hold his shoulder, Tyler commanded. Chelsea didn't hesitate. She grabbed Greg's arm, stabilizing him as he slumped against the desk. Tyler popped the safety cap off the injector, pressed it firmly against Greg's outer thigh, and held it. Click. Greg convulsed slightly as the medicine delivered. Tyler counted to 3, removed the pen, and rubbed the spot. Chelsea, call 911. Tell them we have a Male in his late 20s experiencing severe anaphylactic shock. Epinephrine. Has been administered once, but we need an ambulance immediately. On it, Chelsea said, her hands shaking as she punched the numbers into her phone. The rest of the office stood like statues, clutching their $5 lunchboxes as if they were holding active explosives. Janice, the HR manager, had rushed into the break room at the sound of the commotion. Her eyes darted from Greg, who was slowly, wheezingly beginning to draw air back into his lungs, to the scattered, greasy containers on the tables. What happened? Janice demanded, her authoritative HR voice masking a deep undercurrent of panic. What did he eat? Courtney pointed a shaking finger at Garrett. It was Garrett's food. He said it was organic. He said it was safe. Garrett looked as though he might throw up. It is organic. My uncle said. It's just a minor mix-up. Greg's overreacting. He probably just got a piece of gristle caught in his throat. Shut up, Garrett, Tyler said. The sheer weight of his voice, quiet but absolute, silenced the intern instantly. Tyler walked back to his desk, took a clean paper towel, and wiped his hands. He didn't look at Courtney, nor did he look at Janice, who was now staring at him with a mixture of embarrassment and rising dread. The distant wail of sirens began to echo through the high-rise windows. The afternoon was a blur of flashing lights, paramedic stretchers, and the heavy, sterile smell of oxygen masks. Greg was wheeled out on a gurney, conscious but weak, his wife already on her way to the hospital. By 3 p.m., the atmosphere in the logistics department was suffocating. Nobody was working. The hum of the computers was the only sound, punctuated by the occasional heavy sigh. Janice called an emergency meeting in the main conference room. Garrett sat in the corner, his head bowed, frantically texting under the table. His uncle's diner was already being contacted by the Department of Health, an automatic trigger whenever an emergency service dispatch was linked to commercial food poisoning or allergen contamination. We need to establish exactly what happened here, Janice began, her eyes scanning the room, carefully avoiding Tyler. This is a serious safety incident. The company could face significant liability. Garrett, did you collect the dietary restriction sheets before placing the order with Sonny's Eats? Garrett swallowed, his voice barely audible. I asked Tyler for the spreadsheet. He wouldn't give it to me. A collective murmur went through the room. Courtney immediately seized the opportunity. I knew it. Tyler did this on purpose. He wanted Garrett to fail. Because he was mad about losing his little side hustle. He withheld medical information. Tyler sat at the center of the long mahogany table, his arms crossed. He didn't look angry. In fact, he looked incredibly bored. Is that your official statement, Garrett? Tyler asked softly. That I refused to give you the information? You didn't send me the file. Garrett yelled, suddenly finding his voice, trying desperately to claw his way out of the grave he had dug. I texted you, and you just ignored me. You told me to ask them myself. Tyler reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. He unlocked it, tapped the screen a few times, and placed it in the middle of the table. Janice, as the HR manager, I believe you have access to the department's shared network drive, Tyler said. Janice blinked. Yes, of course. Every single document related to the lunch program, including the ingredient tracking sheet, the allergen list, the individual dietary requirements of every employee, and the contact information for our delivery service, has been stored in the public folder marked office_admin_logistics since November of last year, Tyler explained, his voice smooth and steady. It was never my private file. It was a company resource. Anyone with a login could access it in 3 clicks. Janice's fingers immediately flew across her laptop keyboard. The room was dead, silent save for the rapid clicking of her keys. After a few seconds, her face fell. It's here, Janice whispered. File name, office_lunch_allergen_database.xlsx. Last modified 6 months ago. Tyler picked up his phone and slid it toward Janice. And here is the text. Exchange from yesterday. Garrett asked me for the file at 5:10 p.m. I was already off the clock. I told him the database was available, but since he insisted on managing the program himself, he should verify the restrictions directly with the team. He replied, and I quote, "This spreadsheet is insane. Needs sugar-free. No cilantro, 0 spice. You probably made this up to make it look difficult. I'll just order the standard." Janice stared at the screen. The text was clear, time-stamped, and undeniable. Garrett's jaw fell open. He looked around the room for support, but the coworkers who had been crowding his desk just 24 hours ago were now staring at him with cold, calculating eyes. Garrett, Janice said, her voice dropping into a dangerous register. Did you tell your uncle's restaurant that there were no food allergies in this office? I thought. Garrett stuttered, sweat dripping down his temples. I thought Tyler was just trying to scare me. Who has a shellfish allergy in a logistics office? It's not like we're eating oysters. How was I supposed to know? They used fish stock in the gravy. Because, Chelsea spoke up, her voice sharp as a razor. If you actually cared about doing the job instead of trying to look like a hero, you would have checked. Tyler spent a year checking every single box. He personally labeled Greg's meals with bright red stickers. He had the Miramar kitchen prepare custom sauces from scratch so Greg wouldn't touch a drop of cross-contaminated ingredients. You didn't care. You just wanted to save $5. I was doing it for you guys. Garrett cried, his hands flailing. I didn't take a single penny. I was trying to save you money. And instead you almost killed Greg, Chelsea countered. And you fed us garbage. Courtney looked down at her polished fingernails, her face tight. She didn't say a word. She knew how close she had come to eating that same pork. The smug, self-righteous attitude she had carried when demanding her refund from Tyler had vanished, replaced by a cold, prickling fear of the upcoming HR investigation. This meeting is adjourned, Janice said, rubbing her temples. Garrett, pack your things. You are suspended pending a full investigation by corporate legal and the health department's inquiry into your family's restaurant. Tyler, a word please. The conference room cleared out quickly, leaving only Tyler and Janice. The HR manager looked older than her 45 years. She straightened her blazer, attempting to regain some semblance of the authority she had wielded so casually the night before. Tyler, she began, her tone soft, almost maternal. What happened today was a terrible tragedy, but it was also a misunderstanding. Garrett is young, headstrong. He made a mistake. He committed gross negligence that resulted in an employee being hospitalized. Janice, Tyler corrected her, his tone conversational. Let's call it what it is. Yes, well. Janice cleared her throat. The point is the office needs stability. And frankly, the staff is, well, they're hungry. We realize now that the Miramar's quality was indeed exceptional. I spoke with the regional director, and we are willing to offer a compromise. Tyler raised an eyebrow. A compromise? Yes, Janice smiled, a tight, artificial movement of her lips. We know you. We're upset about the accusations of profiting off us. To show good faith, the company will officially sponsor the lunch program. We will allow you to charge $12 per box. The company will cover the extra $2 as a wellness benefit. But we must insist on the same quality. The short ribs, the organic chicken, the fresh juices, and of course the strict allergen control. Tyler let out a soft, genuine laugh. It wasn't bitter, it was the laugh of someone who had just watched a child try to trade a shiny pebble for a gold bar. Janice, do you know what the wholesale cost of organic, locally sourced short rib is right now? Tyler asked. Janice blinked. Well, no, but it's $14 a pound raw, Tyler said. That doesn't include the labor of a Michelin-starred culinary team, the organic produce, the packaging, the specialized UV sanitized delivery van, or the fuel. The actual cost to produce and deliver one of those Miramar boxes to this office is $48. Janice's mouth opened slightly, but no sound came out. My father's restaurant group was absorbing a loss of $38 per box, Tyler continued, leaning forward. We delivered 100 boxes a day, 5 days a week for nearly 50 weeks. That is a subsidy of $19,000 a week. Over the course of the year, my family spent roughly $95,000 of our own money to ensure that my colleagues, including you, Courtney, and everyone else, ate like royalty. $95,000. Janice whispered, her face losing its professional composure. But why? Why would you do that? Because I was new to the company, and I wanted to do something nice, Tyler said simply. Because my father taught me that when you have abundance, you share it. And because I actually believed we were a team. He stood up, smoothing the front of his trousers. But yesterday, this team decided I was a thief. You demanded refunds. Courtney accused me of buying designer clothes with your money. You, Janice, called me and told me not to come crying to you when I regretted refusing to match Garrett's price. Tyler, we didn't know. You didn't want to know, Tyler interrupted, his voice dropping to a calm, chilling whisper. You wanted a villain because it made your cheapness feel like justice. You wanted to believe that high quality comes cheap, and that anyone charging a fair price is a scammer. Well, now you have your $5 lunch. I hope you enjoy it. He walked toward the door, pausing with his hand on the handle. Oh, and Janice, don't worry about corporate legal contacting my family's restaurant. We've already retained our own counsel. If my name or the Miramar brand is mentioned in any official report regarding this office's dietary incidents, our legal team will file a defamation suit against the company and You personally before the week is out. He opened the door and walked out, leaving the HR manager sitting alone in the silent, cold conference room. The next day, the office was a desert of empty desks and quiet whispers. Garrett's desk had been cleared out overnight. A cardboard box containing a cheap desk calendar, a half-empty bottle of cologne, and a stack of Sonny's Eats flyers was left by the trash can. Greg was still in the hospital, recovering from the severe allergic reaction. His wife had already contacted a prominent personal injury attorney, and rumors were swirling that the company's regional headquarters was sending an executive audit team to investigate the branch's management of unauthorized third-party vendors. But the immediate problem for the remaining employees was much simpler, much more visceral: hunger. At 12 p.m., the familiar, delicious aroma of braised short ribs and roasted chicken did not fill the corridors. There was no private delivery line. The heated Miramar van did not pull into the parking lot. Instead, a group of 5 coworkers stood in the lobby, staring at their phones. "What are we doing for food?" Hank asked, his voice weak. As a diabetic, his blood sugar was already dipping, and he was staring anxiously at his glucose monitor. "Is there anywhere close?" "The deli downstairs has sandwiches," Courtney muttered, looking thoroughly miserable. "But they're $16 and the bread is always stale. And the salad place across the street is $22 for a bowl of lettuce and 3 slices of cucumber," another worker grumbled. "Plus a 40-minute wait because of the lunch rush." Chelsea walked past them, holding a small, insulated bag. She looked bright, refreshed, and entirely unbothered by the tension in the room. "What did you bring, Chelsea?" Courtney asked, her eyes narrowing with a mixture of jealousy and desperation. "Just a bento box from the Miramar," Chelsea said, ziplocking her bag. "Tyler's father's kitchen prepared a few extra recovery meals for Tyler, and he was nice enough to bring one for me. It's grilled salmon with wild rice and ginger glazed bok choy. Oh, and a bottle of the seasonal pear and ginger juice." Hank swallowed hard, his stomach letting out a loud, traitorous growl. "Salmon? That sounds amazing. Chelsea, do you think Tyler could, ask his dad if we could pay full price? I'd pay the $18. Heck, I'd pay $25 if it meant I didn't have to eat another dry turkey sandwich." "You should have thought about that before you accused him of buying designer watches with your $10 bills, Hank," Chelsea said coldly. "I didn't say that. That was Courtney." Hank defended himself, pointing an accusing finger. "You stood there and nodded." Chelsea snapped. "You signed up for Garrett's list. First, you wanted the $5 deal, Hank. You wanted to believe Tyler was a criminal because you're cheap. Now eat your turkey sandwich." She walked away, leaving the group standing in a tense, angry silence. Courtney glared at Chelsea's retreating back, her face twisted in resentment. She thinks she's so special just because she's Tyler's little pet. He's probably paying her to say those things. But nobody agreed with her. The hunger was too real, and the memory of the gray, fishy pork from the day before was still too fresh in their throats. On Friday morning, the tension reached its peak. A sleek, black Mercedes S-Class pulled into the executive parking spot usually reserved for the regional director. From the back seat stepped a man in his late 50s, wearing a bespoke charcoal suit that screamed old money and absolute authority. It was Arthur Vance, the senior vice president of national operations. Janice and the regional director, a nervous man named Richard, were already waiting at the glass doors of the lobby, sweating despite the autumn chill. "Arthur, welcome to the branch," Richard said, extending a hand that was visibly trembling. "We have the conference room prepared for the audit. We've compiled all the documentation regarding the safety incident with the intern." Arthur Vance didn't take Richard's hand. He checked his Patek Philippe watch, his expression cold and unreadable. "We'll get to the incident report, Richard," Arthur said, his voice a deep, resonant baritone. "But first, I want to see the lunch setup." Janice blinked, her heart stopping for a beat. The lunch setup?" "Yes," Arthur said, walking past them into the lobby. "Marcus Sterling told me his son's branch had an exclusive Miramar catering line. Marcus and I play golf at the country club every Saturday. He was telling me about how his flagship kitchen was preparing custom Michelin-grade meals for this office. I've been looking forward to this audit all week just so I could get one of those short rib boxes. The Miramar flagship has a 6-month waiting list." Janice's face went entirely white. Richard looked as if he might faint. "Arthur." Richard stammered, his eyes darting to Janice for help. We actually had to suspend that program." Arthur stopped dead in his tracks. He turned around slowly, his eyes narrowing. "Suspend it? Why would you suspend a service that Marcus Sterling was practically donating to this company as a personal favor?" "Well," Janice began, her voice cracking. "There were concerns. Some of the staff felt the pricing was non-transparent, and there were allegations of financial impropriety. Arthur's gaze turned ice cold. Non-transparent? Marcus was charging you $10 for an $18 box that costs $48 to make. What? Part of that is non-transparent, Janice? 48. Richard's head snapped toward Janice, his eyes wide with horror. You told me the Miramar was a cheap chain. You said Tyler was pocketing a $5 margin. I was told. Janice stammered, her hands fluttering desperately. Garrett said, the intern, he said his uncle's diner could do it for $5. An intern. Arthur Vance let out a dry, humorless laugh that echoed off the high ceiling of the lobby. You canceled a contract with the Sterling Restaurant Group, a national culinary empire, based on the word of an intern. At that moment, the elevator doors slid open. Tyler walked out holding his briefcase, wearing a perfectly tailored wool coat over his casual office clothes. He looked relaxed, his skin healthy, completely recovered from the stress of the past year. Tyler. Arthur's face immediately broke into a warm, genuine smile. He walked past the frozen executives and threw an arm around Tyler's shoulder. My boy, how are you? Your father told me you were working down here, but I had to see it for myself. Arthur, good to see you, Tyler said, shaking the older man's hand. I'm doing well. Just wrapping up my final logistics reports. Final? Arthur frowned. What do you mean, final? I submitted my resignation this morning, Tyler said, his voice calm and clear. Enough for the entire lobby to hear. I've completed my year of entry-level experience. My father wants me to transition into the corporate development team at Sterling Group next month. Arthur laughed, shaking his head. Well, can't blame him for wanting you back. But tell me, what is this nonsense about the lunch boxes? I was looking forward to the short ribs. Tyler glanced at Janice and Richard, who were standing like statues, their eyes fixed on the floor. The team decided they preferred a more cost-effective option, Arthur, Tyler said, a small, polite smile playing on his lips. They felt my family's food was dangerous and low-grade. An intern offered to source $5 meals from a local diner, and the department decided to pursue that partnership. Arthur's smile vanished. He turned back to Richard and Janice, his expression transforming into one of absolute fury. A $5 diner? Arthur whispered, his voice trembling with quiet rage. You insulted Marcus Sterling's son, accused him of fraud, canceled a $100,000 annual benefit, and replaced it with a diner that ended up putting one of my logistics coordinators in the hospital. Richard looked as if he wanted the floor to open up and swallow him whole. Arthur, we didn't know Tyler was Marcus's son. He never told us. Why should he have to tell you? Arthur roared, his voice cracking like thunder. Do you only treat people with respect when you think they're rich? Is that how you run this branch, Richard? Is that the corporate culture you're fostering here, Janice? No, Arthur. Please, it was a mistake. Janice cried, tears finally springing to her eyes. It wasn't a mistake, Tyler said softly, looking at Janice. It was greed. And it was arrogance. You wanted the luxury without paying the price, and when someone gave it to you for free, you hated them for it. He turned back to Arthur. I'm going to head out, Arthur. My father is waiting for me at the flagship. We're testing a new autumn menu today. Go on, Tyler, Arthur said, his tone softening instantly. Tell Marcus I'll see him on Saturday, and tell him I'm deeply embarrassed by the behavior of this office. I will, Tyler said. He picked up his briefcase, gave Chelsea a warm nod as she walked into the lobby, and walked out the glass doors into the bright morning sun. The fallout from the $5 fiasco was swift, brutal, and thoroughly documented. By Monday, the regional headquarters had completed its audit. Richard, the regional director, was given the choice between a forced early retirement or a demotion to a remote branch in another state. He chose retirement. Janice was officially stripped of her hiring and firing authority. While she kept her title as HR manager, a corporate-appointed compliance officer was placed in her office, monitoring every email and every interview she conducted. Her pension was frozen pending the resolution of Greg's lawsuit against the company. As for Garrett, his internship was not only terminated, but his uncle's diner, Sonny's Eats, was hit with 47 separate health code violations, including improper food storage, cross-contamination, and operating without a valid commercial license for high-volume catering. The diner was shut down by the city within 10 days, and Sonny was facing a massive civil suit from Greg's family. In the logistics office, the atmosphere had shifted from toxic arrogance to a quiet, humbled depression. Every day at noon, the employees would gather their cheap, cold lunches from the local grocery store or wait in long, expensive lines at the mediocre cafes down the street. Courtney sat at her desk, eating a dry, $14 chicken wrap that tasted like Cardboard. She looked over at Chelsea's desk, where Chelsea was enjoying a fresh, warm container of hand-pulled noodles with slow-cooked beef brisket sent directly from the Miramar kitchen as a daily gift from Tyler. Chelsea, Courtney said, her voice small, lacking any of its former venom. Does Tyler ever ask about us? Chelsea took a slow, deliberate sip of her fresh pear juice. She looked at Courtney, then at the rest of the silent, hungry office. No, Courtney, Chelsea said, her voice gentle but firm. He doesn't. He's already forgotten you exist. And with that, Chelsea turned back to her computer, leaving the office to the cold, quiet reality of the lunch they had chosen for themselves.